Hi, Carol. How are you?
I'm doing so well, and I'm so happy to see you.
I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. Of course, my pleasure, the team's pleasure. And I know the audience is so thrilled that you're here, and they'll really be excited when you give them some of this reinvention of our relationship coaching. I mean, how cool is that? We all need it, if not today, sometime, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I think relationships are one of those areas in our life that if it's not going well, it affects every other aspect from work to, how we feel on a day-to-day basis, how we sleep at night. It really is something that is so central. And I think the pandemic has shown us that we really can't survive without each other.
It's the truth. It's freeing to know that we all need someone and we need one another. And to the pandemic, I think I love that it's brought to the forefront of our minds. We're a global community. As a matter of fact, you're in the Philippines right now.
I am. I live between the Philippines and Dubai.
So exciting. Okay, tell everyone, you and I got to visit a little bit, so I had
Mhm.
a sneak peek into some of this wonderful information. Talk to us about fear keeping us safe, and yet at the same time, it's keeping us stuck, and how that's affecting our relationships.
Absolutely. So when it comes to fear, our relationships often our relations get affected by what we fear is going to happen. So most of us go into relationships and we're afraid of being hurt. We're afraid of being disappointed. We're afraid of being cheated on, whatever our biggest fear may be. And often our fears actually manifest in those relationships. They come true because we almost anticipate it, our behaviors invite it, and so our fear actually keeps us stuck in the loop of experiencing the same kinds of negative patterns in our relationships. And really, to understand what those fears are would be the first step to freeing yourself from that. And it is only when you go into a relationship fearlessly, ready to open your heart, be vulnerable, really give it all you got, that you can kind of invite that kind of relationship into your life where somebody gives that back to you. And so when you have the courage to love fearlessly, you can create relationships that are really very different from the ones that cause you pain and suffering and stress in your daily life.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to ask a question that I'll bet at least 90% of the people that hear you speak would like to ask.
Mhm.
You mentioned in a relationship, let's say that the fear is fear of someone cheating, which is devastating.
Absolutely.
In those situations, so however it manifested, this
Mhm.
fear does happen, it actually manifests. Can those relationships, can that trust be reinvented? Is it all the time, very few times, a lot of the times? If people will apply some practices, can that relationship be reinvented?
I believe so. I believe when both people are committed to the relationship, that they can work through those situations. But I think there's one thing to consider, Carol, and that is that when you experience cheating in a relationship, it's pretty much often not the first time. You've
Mhm.
been cheated on multiple times, or you've experienced other forms of betrayal in other aspects of your life. It could be in childhood, it could be in your career, it could be with friendships. So I've noticed that things like betrayal and cheating, they never come on its own. And so, one of the most important things to address if you want to keep your relationship together, if you want to fix something that has been broken by betrayal,
Yeah.
whether it's you're the one who's betrayed or you've been betrayed, one of the first things to do is really take a good look at your own life and check if it's your pattern. is it something you've encountered over and over again? And if it is, then that is exactly what you need to pay attention to, because that's your pattern. It's not the other person who's cheated on you. It's something you keep attracting or creating in your own life. And that means that before fixing it with somebody else, you need to fix it within yourself. You need to address, where is this pattern coming from? Why do I keep attracting this? What am
Why?
I getting from this betrayal? What's the story that I keep telling myself about myself that shows up in these, betrayal situations in my life, creating all this chaos and trauma, which I'd love to blame somebody else for. I'd love to project it
Oh,
and, point the finger elsewhere.
oh,
But once I see that the pattern is actually mine, then it must be me. And if it is
I,
me, I got to take accountability and responsibility for creating relationship success.
that is my favorite thing, accountability and
Mhm.
responsibility. And I love you're closing up this wonderful evening of information. And this is so beautiful because to be able to wrap all these things up with, let's ask, has this happened before, and when and how and why do I keep inviting? So beautiful, because again, becoming accountable for our relationships has to come first with the accountability to ourselves.
Absolutely. And I find with my clients, Carol, that whenever somebody else is doing something to them, for example, you're not giving me enough time.
Yeah.
You're, too busy. Like, let's say you have that conversation with your partner. There's no time for us. You're too busy. Chances are that you aren't giving time to yourself, and it is showing up in your life as your partner being too busy for you. Okay. So,
Certainly.
whatever we're experiencing with other people, and it feels like they are doing something to us, where we feel either, we're bearing the brunt of it, or we are feeling victimized by that behavior or situation, right? In actuality, that is a reflection of what's going on within ourselves.
Ah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm guilty of it.
Me
And
too.
I learned that the hard way. It was a very costly lesson for my family, actually.
Mhm.
And it was the beginning, though, of this accountability journey. So instead of choosing the shame spiral, I choose to take that forward and make different choices.
Mhm.
But it was about to repeat itself in another relationship. Me
Right.
thinking I'm this victim, mainly of time, of the lack of time. I saw it coming up. I said, oh my God, the only common denominator here is moi. you know, so a very enlightening, disappointing day turned to a very enlightening day. But that is the truth. You know, I appreciate what you do. And the audience, you didn't share, and I didn't tell them first. You have had wellness clinics all over, and you have worked with um, healing teams of all different types.
That's right.
I think that you could share with us as we go into the end of these wonderful conversations all these different types of people that you've worked with to help for people to get into healing and
Yeah.
self-reflection and awareness. Fear is generally the underlying cause of the trouble. Correct?
Yeah. We are often more fearful of being happy or loved or successful or abundant or have the freedom in our life. We're more fearful of having all of it than of not having it at all. And so often when I work with people, fear becomes that big boulder that they have to overcome right before they're going to take off, right before they're going to fly and, create whatever they want, reach their goals. But it's that fear that comes up, that keeps them spinning their wheels and not kind of getting to that final step. So I do agree that fear is really big. I've also experienced, because I've worked, Carroll, with over 5,000 women at this point. I've been doing this work for over 15 years, and relationships ends up being what I attract the most, especially because I have my own relationship story, my own trauma and challenges that I've overcome. And I've discovered that it's really a blend of coaching with healing, a lot of awareness that needs to come in. So as you shared in your story, the moment where you realize, oh my God, I'm the common denominator. It's me, right? And that moment is very powerful. Of course, it can be very humbling because you realize that all this while you've been blaming everybody else, but it's actually you. But
Ah,
that moment is so powerful, Carroll, because that's the moment you stop playing victim and you start taking control. You
ah,
start taking your power back, right? So when we talk about victim, the opposite of that is having your power in the situation. And you have the power to change the story. You mentioned, making different choices. You have the power to make different choices. You have the power to react differently, to choose different behaviors. And so it really is about that turning point in your life where you choose to take accountability and then you seek out. And often this comes to you without you having to do too much seeking out of it. The moment you decide to take the control back, I've found with my own experiences and the experiences of my students and clients that the right path comes to you. With the women I've worked with, we do a lot of work on inner child healing,
mm,
the childhood wounds and trauma. I
mhm,
explore the relationship with the male figures and the female figures in your life. So your parents usually come first. If you have a sibling or other, important people in your life who have influenced you and influenced how you perceive relationships. Because if you don't have a good relationship with your father, you're likely to have trouble with men. And if
mhm,
you don't have a good relationship with your mother, you are likely to have challenges with self-esteem and self-love, because how you feel about yourself is reflected in your relationship with your mother. And how you feel in relationships with other people, especially a significant other, is reflected by your relationship with your father. So if you feel safe and secure, and you felt that way growing up, then relationships will feel safe and secure. But if your father and your mother had a challenging relationship, or if they fought out all the time, or your father cheated on your mother, or he walked out and your mom was a single mom. So all these different factors will affect how you relate to men,
mhm,
how you relate to men, and that could be at the workplace. Like if you have
mhm,
a male boss, it could affect that relationship, because you may not have much respect for men, or you may feel that men are quick to abandon you or quick to walk out. And so really the relationships that we grew up with are telltales of the kind of relationships we will create in our adult life. So really healing, Carroll, moving through the fear starts with awareness. I find that you really have to go in, dig deep into the situations in your past. And that's the work that I do with the people who I coach. And really bringing in self-love is very important, having that sense of self-esteem and self-worth. Because if you can't love yourself, then you won't allow anyone else to love you. And
mm.
really, I always say how you love yourself is how you teach other people to love you. Like that really is the gold standard. So if you know your boundaries, if you are very connected to yourself and you prioritize yourself, you often will attract a partner who will prioritize you, who will love you, who will respect your boundaries, because you're showing them what you will and will not tolerate in your own relationship with yourself. And if you are quick to say no to what's not good for you, you're quick to say no to other things that aren't good for you, that might be outside of you. And so everything, again, is a reflection of what's going on inside. So every relationship out there, every situation you encounter, the experiences that you create, they're just reflections of what's going on within you, whether it's resolved or unresolved issues from our past experiences, primarily from our childhood.
Yeah, isn't it? It's fascinating. And what you're sharing, and I'm so excited. I don't want to get off of this call, but the thing about it is you are encouraging all of us to become curious
Mhm.
and just to start this self-reflection
Yeah.
and think about our past relationships. Think about our current relationships. Where is it, or do we feel as a victim? Where do we want to see the change? And I appreciate that so much because I believe that curiosity leads to growth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's okay to be okay with where we are. We can't do anything about that past anyway, but if we didn't like it, we can certainly make new choices. I know everyone is going to want, I believe the team, every now and again, I can see something come up on the screen. They're sharing with everyone how to get in touch with you. They're
Mm-hmm.
sharing the beautiful gift that you have shared. And I want to thank you. What a beautiful way to round out these conversations with the importance and a reminder that it's a choice to become accountable, to acknowledging and looking at to what we're fearful of, maybe look at why, and reach out to you, to all these beautiful speakers that have shared so generously of time, talent, and treasure in many ways. I want to thank you for being here. And I look very forward to our next conversation.
Thank you so much, Carol. I want to acknowledge you for putting this together. I mean, just having all of us here to be able to share our message and the way you have actually brought it out within us. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you. And I want to thank everyone listening in. If anything resonated with you, definitely, I've shared a free gift and, something that will help you take that accountability in your life. Thank you once again, Carol, for this opportunity. And absolutely, we are here to take accountability, to face our fears, and to create beautiful success in our life. So lots of love to everyone.
Thank you. And thank you for what you do.